So let me see if I can help Senator Hamady, Chairman Hamady.
That's a very hard job, no.
You are very good at public relations with senators, that we recognize the challenges you face. So do either one of you belong to this working group? Does the Army or the FAA participate? And can you answer that so the NTSB can pursue information?
I mean, the FAA, it's the FAA's working group.
It's the FAA's working group. All right. Mr. Rushlow, what's the problem?
I'm happy to work with the chair. We've been working extremely closely together on this investigation, and I'm happy to work with the chair and understand why she hasn't received that information and make sure we follow up on that.
Can you think of any reason that NTSB shouldn't be a part of that information?
Off the top of my head, I can't. I don't know why they would be restricted in that, and I certainly will talk to my folks when we get back.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Chairman, should we ask is the Army part of this working group as well?
The Army is part of the working group. Yes, Senator.
There are apparently 17 entities that are part of the working group. We just haven't been able to verify who all the entities are.
Surely the FAA is in charge, and they can help you.
Surely I would have been happy to understand that before today and work
General,
with
you know
the
any
chair.
reasons that the working group's efforts can't be known by NTSB?
Absolutely not.
Thank you. Let me follow up. Mr. Rochelow indicated that the FAA does have the authority to require ATSB out. Do you agree with that assessment that the FAA can make this decision, and if you don't follow the FAA policies, then you're precluded from the airspace?
Chairman, the Army operates 100% under FAA authority.
Very good. And let me turn to the perhaps the next steps or new information, and to this I'll go to Chair Hamady. Since the report that we're discussing here today is 2 weeks old, what has transpired, if anything, in those 2 weeks? Have you discovered any new and relevant information that you can share with us?
Where would you like me to begin? One thing I can say on ADSB out, off, that's policy of the Army, but we are also still looking at installation programming and potential for equipment malfunction. And the reason I mention this is because the accident helicopter, for this accident helicopter, no ADSB data had been received from an FAA ground station for 730 days prior to the accident. And that was abnormal. So we began looking at the fleet for the battalion. The battalion had 25 helicopters. That includes this particular helicopter. 9 of them were Mike models, and all were transmitting ADSB out when they were turned on, because we have to verify that it's working. There were 16 Limas, including the accident helicopter, which we're still looking at, but 7 were transmitting when ADSB out was turned on. 8 were not, and stopped doing so sometime between May and November 2023. We don't know why. 5 of those started transmitting since the NTSB identified the issue and began working with the Army to try to isolate the reason. So I just want to let you know that you can have ADSB out on, but you also have to make sure that it's working.
You indicated working with the Army, but there's other participants in this arena.
Absolutely.
And then were you narrowing it to the Army as if something is necessarily wrong there? Or more broadly, there's a problem in receiving the information?
For the ADSB out on, we wanted to look at the helicopter fleet for the battalion to see if whether ADSB out on, when turned on, was actually transmitting data. Because we did think it was abnormal that for the helicopter involved in the accident, it wasn't transmitting data for so long.
Any explanation, General?
Chairman, this exactly is what the value of the investigation is. There are things that you would not normally look at that are being determined here, and that's certainly going to help us drive policy and any changes that we need to do as a result of the investigation. And certainly the NTSB has the expertise to do that.
So what we're hearing from Chair Hamady is that there may be, it may be transmitting, it may be on, but there's no receipt. There's, I don't know, technical problems in the process by which it's not providing the information it's supposed to provide, right?
Chairman, obviously, the functionality of any Army equipment, it's certainly Army aviation equipment, is important to me. So if we're discovering that there's a challenge there, we will take direct action, absolutely.
This is not an inconsequential thing, right?
It's not. And I think for the public watching, because I think there are a lot of people watching, is ADSB out broadcasts latitude, longitude, and altitude and velocity once per second. It updates once per second versus 4 to 6 seconds for radar, which is significant when you have converging aircraft.
Mr. Rochelow, you indicated as of today, there's a change in policy at FAA. I would be interested in knowing if that change in policy is only related to DCA airspace, or you are making those requirements, putting those requirements in place for other airports.
Thank you, Senator. So the requirements that I announced today are effective for the DC Class B airspace immediately. That part of our ongoing work, as I related earlier with respect to hotspots and the mixed traffic that we've seen that could be problematic, are areas where we're looking at kind of adding that requirement in. It seems premature simply along the lines of the way airspace is structured in different locations that we need to focus before acting too quickly. So we want to make sure that as we're looking at the different airspaces and how they're constructed, that we're taking kind of intentional, careful action.
And that intentional action is underway. You're doing
Yes,
that
sir.
at other airports
Absolutely.
today.
And wherever we find a risk, we will mitigate that risk immediately.
Chairman Hamady, I asked you a question, then I interrupted you, and you sound like your answer would be lengthy of the things that you've learned in the last 2 weeks. I'll come back to you after recognizing the two senators to my left.